Hi everyone, my name is Marzena. I work at Travel Audience in Berlin, and I would like to welcome you today to the third episode of our data web series called A Pathway to Recovery.
Hello everyone and welcome back to our data web series. I'm Signe and I work in Travel Audience marketing team based in Amadeus office in Madrid.
This web series is aimed at us sharing our knowledge and experience with you to help you leverage data to promote your destinations. So today we'll be taking a look at how strategy can help you bring visitors back to your destination. But before we jump in, let's take a look at what we covered last time around. So the main takeaways from that episode were: search data is a powerful measure of demand or interest to your destination. It helps in being able to find the right campaign strategies by developing a deeper understanding of different aspects of your destination. And finally, we established that travel is resilient and travelers are already looking to come back. And now it is upon us to help them adapt to the new normal and build trust again so that they return.
In today's episode, we're going to be looking at booking data. So how insights from booking data can essentially help to bring your visitors back. The three main topics we're going to be looking at today are: first, how booking data can help you understand your visitors. Then we're also going to look at the different booking channels and how this might affect your marketing activities. And in the end, we're going to be looking at the concept of sweet spot, or what happens in the actual moment when the booking is made.
Signe, in your many conversations with destinations, I'm sure you heard of the term the ideal visitor.
Yes, certainly. And I think that this term has recently gained some extra attention. So destinations are actively trying to define these characteristics that will be defining what their ideal visitor is. So is it a business traveler or a leisure one? Maybe your ideal visitor is someone that's staying in luxury hotels, or on contrary, it might be someone that prefers adventure travel. So it can be quite confusing to define the exact criteria that we are looking for when thinking about ideal visitor. Is it a certain length of stay, or maybe a certain expenditure that makes a traveler the ideal one?
Of course, this concept varies from destination to destination and from season to season. Many beach destinations, for example, that have no problem filling up their rooms in their summer months, see a significant dip in demand in the winter. For them, shifting focus to the business traveler as an ideal visitor during the winter became a way to address it. Big events such as the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona or the Web Summit in Lisbon are a great way to attract these segments. I can also speak from my own experience as a person who is normally traveling a lot to these kind of events and conferences.
Yes, and I think now that we're approaching the new normal, we also might need to consider how this might be changing the perception of what we define as an ideal traveler. And we're actually going to get back to this at the end of the episode, but now let's take a closer look at what is booking data. So booking data is the piece of information that allows destinations step by step understand and identify these ideal travelers. So the more insights you get on the people that actually come to your destination, the more refined targeting you can then make for your advertising campaigns. Nowadays, travelers actually have a lot of different options when it comes to planning and booking their travel. So essentially, also the booking data can be retrieved from different sources. In Travel Audience, we're working with a quite unique combination when it comes to booking data, because on one side we have the travel agency bookings, and then we combine it with the data we get from our data partners, so leading travel websites, and we get this data on a pixel level. In the end, what this gives us is a very complete and comprehensive picture of the overall booking ecosystem that allows us to better track conversions and real bookings. And this is also very essential when it comes to planning and monitoring marketing activities. So in the beginning, you can design and make targeting criteria based on the behaviors you see from real travelers. It also helps to optimize the campaign, because at this stage you already know what works better and what is translating into real bookings. And it's also the key piece of information when it comes to measuring the efficiency of your campaigns. So you can actually tell how many real visitors has a marketing campaign brought to your destination. The first part of the booking data we mentioned before is the travel agency bookings. So here we refer to those bookings that are made in online and offline agencies, with travel agents that are using global distribution systems. So if you remember from the first episode when we were looking at the traveler's journey through data, now we have moved into the next step of the purchasing process. So with this data we're referring to real travelers that have already been to your destination, or also those that have active tickets to come to your destination in the upcoming months.
Then there is data from data partners. As Travel Audience, we partner with a lot of online travel agencies and other travel websites around the world to get access to their data. These sites generate millions of bookings every month. In the context of this webinar, though, we will be looking mostly at the bookings made within the travel agency environment. However, the same logic can be applied to interpreting insights from bookings made in other channels. But how can booking data actually be helpful? There are several ways in which a destination can use this data to their benefit. First, they can understand and identify new traveler profiles. Also, it helps to understand how travelers plan and book their travel in the target markets. You can use it to identify the best time, length, and channel for your marketing activities, make better use of your partnerships with industry players, and of course, it helps in identifying the actual booking moment.
And if we're thinking about using the booking data to understand our visitors better, it's actually quite similar to what we were saying about search data. So with each booking, you already get a lot of insights about your travelers. So you know where they are from, what destination they have booked, you also see their travel dates. And actually with the booking data, you get some extra pieces of information. So at this stage, we already know if this traveler is a business traveler or a leisure one, how long in advance they have made their booking, and also what channel they used for this booking. And a key piece of information with bookings is that you also get an outlook to the future. So who is booking now to travel in the future months? So this from one hand allows us to manage any upcoming shortfalls in visitor numbers, but in times like now, it gives you a clear picture of what travel period are travelers already booking and perceiving as safe for traveling again.
On this slide, you can see a top-level segmentation of visitors that we would typically use to refine the targeting for our campaigns. So as you can see, there is business travelers, family travelers, luxury travelers. I'm sure you have some ideas about which of these you would mostly like to attract to your destination. Having this knowledge, you can easily target your ideal visitor and bring them to your destination.
Now, let's take a look at some real and practical examples that show us how the current situation has changed the traveler purchase behavior. So we'd like to share you some trends that we're seeing from the actual data. As we mentioned before, booking data is a really good source of information to understand what's happening in the market in the current situation. So it's the logical next step when we're thinking about recovery strategies as well. And similar as we mentioned with the demand data, the key here is doing the analysis on a micro level. So what we do on our side is looking at the booking data on different origin and destination level week by week to notice any changes as soon as they are happening. In this graph here, we have compared the booking evolution in two European markets. So we have destination Germany and destination United Kingdom. So each line represents of how new bookings have been created week by week this year. And here an interesting point to make is that in the current situation, we also need to rethink of how we calculate the bookings. So if normally we would be looking at the net bookings, so the difference between the new bookings and the cancellations, when we're looking for signs of recovery, we might be more interested to looking at new created bookings. This is what we have done in this case. So these are the new bookings created, reducing the cancellations. So this allows us to spot the increase in bookings as soon as they happen without having to wait for the effect of cancellations to go away. What we can see here is that both of the markets, especially in the last 4 weeks, are starting to receive more and more bookings, and this is certainly an optimistic sign that we can see for both of them. Another aspect we see here is once again highlighting the importance of benchmarking your destination to a competing one or a similar one. If you see that your destination is doing not as good as the destination that is similar, you might have to rethink of what might be they doing that is different to you. Maybe they're already launching a marketing campaign and you might want to do the same as well. As we mentioned before, it's not only monitoring of how the bookings are evolving, we also see that traveler behavior has changed significantly. So in this next example, we're looking at what's happening in destination Finland. So we have taken a closer look at the evolution of weekend trips. So in this graph, each line shows the relative share of weekend trips. So we compare how many of all the bookings that Finland is receiving are for weekend trips. So in 2019, we can see that throughout the year, there's more or less the same amount of weekend travelers, maybe slightly more in May. But now in 2020, travelers have changed their behavior completely. So now weekend trips are less popular than those traveling during the week or those that are traveling for longer periods. This could have different explanations. So for example, maybe the flight schedules have changed and now it's less convenient to travel during the weekend. But it could also mean that now travelers are looking different at safety and travel. So maybe it's not worth for them to go only for a weekend, and maybe they're trying to get the best of their travels, and each time they travel, they want to go more than just for 2 days. And we confirm this trend by looking at this next example. So here we have different origin markets that are booking their trips to Finland, and each number shows how many days on average are these travelers staying. And we have compared this month with the same period in 2019. So what we can see here, that overall all the markets have increased the average amount of nights that they're staying in Finland. So this further confirms the trend that travelers now are looking different of the ways we travel, and in general they want to stay longer when they come to your destination. So for example, even in case for long haul markets like Hong Kong and Taiwan, they're looking at the over 2-week stay when they're booking to Finland.
That's a great opportunity. These visitors will potentially have higher expenditures and get in the habit of staying longer in your destination. Some DMOs have already been embracing this opportunity with the help of advertising. They've really been impressing us with their creativity. We think it's a great idea to show through your new marketing campaigns that your destination has a lot to offer and is worth staying longer. Some destinations promote different activities that might be relevant to their visitors, such as adventure, hiking, biking, swimming or diving, culture, such as museums or theaters, and of course culinary. A lot of visitors travel for the food in a destination. They also promote unusual, off-the-beaten-track places. And we think that branding video campaigns are a great fit for this kind of promotion. Now that we've discussed the length of stay, let's move on to the next factor in travelers' behavior. Let's take a look at our data to see which markets are already booking for 2021. According to our analysis of 2019 data, we know that typically the travelers who are booking the most in advance are the travelers coming from long-haul origin countries such as Australia or Brazil.
Well, but at the same time, we also know that now the consumer behavior has changed quite significantly. So in the graph we see now, we have different origin markets, and we have looked at how many of the bookings they have made in the last month are for traveling now or in the remaining of 2020, and what's the percentage of those bookings that are already for 2021. So this essentially gives us the top 5 markets that are the most advanced bookers, so most of their bookings are for traveling next year, and the top 5 of the last minute bookers, so those that are most active to make the last minute reservations. So we can see that the behaviors really change from one market to another one. So Greece, for example, in the last month, 98% of their bookings have been to travel in the remaining of 2020. To put this in a slightly more perspective related to marketing, our recommendation here would be to look at the markets that are booking more in advance as an opportunity for awareness and branding campaigns. So as there's still some time till these travelers will travel, you have the opportunity to promote certain events in 2021 or grab their attention to certain activities you want to promote in long term. On the contrary, the last minute bookers like Greece, India and Russia are those markets that are ready for last minute marketing campaigns. So these are those markets that are actively booking the summer travel and can give you the opportunity to bring back more visitors even this year.
Average booking lead time, or the time between when a booking is made and when the actual travel happens, can be very useful in driving more effective advertising campaigns. And that's not only the case in this current situation, but in general. It can also help you in adapting your messaging for your campaigns. You might want to show a different kind of banner to a market that books 30 days in advance than to one that books 90 or more days in advance. Organizing booking data in this way can also be helpful when planning and promoting a big event in your destination or driving a last-minute campaign.
And yes, actually, if we look at the current data, we can see how drastic these changes can be. So here on the screen we can see the German booking behavior in bookings trip to Europe. So this is the average lead time we saw from German market in 2019, the white line, and how it compares to the current situation in 2020. So we can see that in 2019, the travel behavior in this market is quite similar all through the year, on travelers booking on average 1.5 months, 2 months in advance. But the situation has changed completely. So now, when looking at March, April and May, German travelers have booked as long as 3 months in advance. So for example, in May, when we see really high lead times, travelers were booking to travel in mid-July. So this gives us an indication that first, even though travel was not available these months, travelers were still actively booking and they never stopped planning their travels. And also it means that German travelers have picked up the news that we were hearing all over. So it's exactly the time, mid-July, that the European Union announced that the borders will most likely be open. Now when we're looking to more recent months like July, we can see that the lead time has gone down to only 31 days. This indicates that as of current situation, Germans are really active in booking and this lead time is lower than it was in 2019. So Germans must be actively booking the last minute travels for this summer.
Now let's take a look at the top city destinations for German travelers. There are two things worth mentioning here though. This information is based only on agency air booking data that is usually not taking into consideration low-cost flights. Another point is that recently we don't see much business travel happening, which would explain why cities like London or Frankfurt would disappear from the list. But what's interesting here is that you can see cities such as Thessaloniki or Lisbon appearing on the top 5. And I think this is largely connected to their great advertising campaigns. We already see some destinations using advertising to embrace different kind of opportunities. It can help them, for example, to take advantage of the summer holiday demand, running last-minute campaigns to their destination, or specifically addressing potential travelers who plan further in advance.
Now it's certainly the time to make the most of your partnerships with different industry players. And in this episode, as we're talking a lot around travel agency bookings, we wanted to highlight a bit more the values you can get when partnering with different travel agencies and travel agents. So maybe you might be asking, what is the value of travel agents? So let me break it down to you in 3 different benefits. So first of all, travel agents are in direct contact with the end traveler. So this can be seen in ways as the word-to-mouth effect. Also, now more than ever, when there's so much uncertainty around travel agents is always perceived as this trustful source of information. So it can really help you to convince the end traveler that they can visit your destination already. And last but not least, we also need to remember that travel agents are an important part of the overall customer experience. So by informing and targeting travel agents, you can essentially get brand ambassadors that can enhance the overall experience of visiting your destination.
A research study recently conducted by Amadeus supports this idea. We can see that when advertising to travel agents, the click-through rate has been 10 times higher than usual during the current situation. This proves the point that now more than ever you have to keep your travelers informed. And one way to do that is to work closely with your travel agency community. Both travelers and travel sellers have to rethink and adapt to the new situation. We all have to rethink travel.
And if we're talking about rethinking travel, another concept we would like to look at today is the sweet spot. So the sweet spot is essentially the moment when the booking is made. And as with booking data, you can see and understand much more detailed what shapes the traveler purchase behavior. It's the key piece of information that we need to consider when planning marketing activities. Having a closer look at the different factors and triggers that helps travelers to make this final destination and purchase a ticket. Essentially what all destinations are hoping for. In the current situation, there are completely new factors shaping this behavior that weren't there before. So for example, if the borders are opened or closed, or the overall perception of safety. So now we need to think that there's a new aspect we need to consider, which is agility, the ability to adapt to what the data is showing us as happening right now. So you can launch the right message at the right time, tailored for the right audience. So the magic formula for effective advertising.
Let's take a look at the evolution of messaging on the example of marketing Greece. A few days after the country's lockdown in March came the launch of the Till Then Stay Safe campaign, inviting people to stay positive and safe. At the beginning of April, it was then all about Greece from home, a great interactive platform. I'm sure some of you have seen it. There are interesting videos, free training sessions, and other inspiring content that could be discovered while travel was impossible. Then, in the middle of April, the next campaign, Until the Time is Right, was launched. This then took travelers even one step closer to the destination of Greece. At the beginning of June, Greece Marketing launched their Greek Summer campaign, designed to send a message of optimism and aiming to inspire the world to travel to Greece whenever possible. And finally, about a month later, the Endless Greek Summer campaign was released, including the main video of the Greek Summer campaign, inviting people to visit Greece via a "See you soon" message. I have to say that this would be a picture book example of how to deal with challenging times and turn them into an opportunity rather than an obstacle. Also, after seeing all of these campaigns and beautiful videos, I cannot wait to go back to Greece myself and explore all these beautiful islands.
But before we all get to book the tickets to enjoy Greece this summer, let's take a look of what we have learned in today's episode. So we saw that booking data is yet another key piece of information for understanding your travelers when thinking of the next normal. We also saw how monitoring the travel behavior can help you adapt the marketing activities. And last but not least, we highlighted the overall importance of strengthening your relationships with different industry players. And speaking about strengthening the existing relationships with your industry partners, make sure you join us the next time, because we're going to be looking at how airline seat capacity data and air traffic data can improve the performance of your destination. Thank you very much for joining, and see you next time.